Hi, good afternoon. I'm Chief Michelle Kott with the City of Bethlehem Police Department. And first to the podium, I'll be calling Captain Nicholas Lechman.
Good afternoon. Today, the Bethlehem Police Department announces the filing of criminal charges against a former police officer. On the afternoon of May 1st, 2024, the City of Bethlehem Police Department was contacted by administrators of the Bethlehem Area School District regarding an allegation of a possible inappropriate relationship involving one of the district's students, a 14-year-old female at East Hills Middle School. Preliminary information indicated that the relationship may have involved then-Officer Kostas Alestis, who was assigned by the Bethlehem Police Department as the school resource officer at East Hills Middle School. Immediately after receiving this information, Alestis was directed by police administration to leave the school building and return to police headquarters. He was then placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of this investigation. Alestis voluntarily surrendered his cellular phone to police at that time as well. On May 2nd, Bethlehem police detectives met with the reported victim and conducted an extensive interview. The victim disclosed that she had been involved in ongoing communication with Alestis while at school, including him providing her with his personal cellular telephone number. At one point, the victim's mother discovered text messages on her phone, and when Alestis became aware of this, he began using a second phone number to communicate with the victim. The victim stated that, among other things, this communication with Alestis included conversations about engaging in sexual acts. As the communication between Alestis and the victim continued, the interactions progressed to several encounters involving sexual contact between the two. The victim reported that these encounters occurred both in school during the school day and in Alestis's personal vehicles outside of school hours. One incident occurring at the school was during a school dance while Alestis was on duty and in police uniform. Detectives found evidence of communication between Alestis and the victim during a search of both of their cellular phones, as well as additional records obtained from cellular carriers and mobile application providers. This evidence included message content and location data that corroborated the victim's statements to police. Detectives also located a video recording on Alestis's personal phone, which was taken inside East Hills Middle School and depicted a second victim's private area under the victim's outer clothing. This video was taken without the victim's knowledge while she was walking in a hallway. As a result of this investigation, Alestis was charged with a number of offenses, including statutory sexual assault, institutional sexual assault, aggravated indecent assault, involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, criminal use of a communications facility, and invasion of privacy. Alestis was preliminarily arraigned this afternoon by District Judge Nicholas Engelson, and bail was set at $500,000. He was committed to Northampton County Prison to await a preliminary hearing on these charges. The Bethlehem Police Department is thankful for the cooperation in this investigation from both the Bethlehem Area School District and the Northampton County District Attorney's Office. We ask that anyone with additional information contact us at 610-865-7000 or at our email address, bethlehempolice@bethlehem-pa.gov. We also take anonymous information on our tip line at 610-691-6660. As a reminder, the filing of criminal charges is merely an allegation and only the first step in the criminal court process. The named individual is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Thank you. Chief?
And now I'd like to read a written statement that I prepared. Today, we announced the arrest of Kostas Alestis, a former police officer with the Bethlehem Police Department, following allegations that he had inappropriate contact with a minor. Kostas Alestis was assigned as a school resource officer at East Hills Middle School in the Bethlehem Area School District. Upon receiving a report from the Bethlehem Area School District alleging misconduct, the Bethlehem Police Department immediately initiated both a criminal and internal investigation. As a result of the criminal investigation, sufficient evidence was gathered to warrant the arrest of Mr. Alestis. As a result of the internal investigation, Mr. Alestis was terminated and is no longer employed by the City of Bethlehem Police Department. The Bethlehem Police Department takes allegations of professional conduct and public trust violations very seriously. We are fully committed to upholding the highest standards of integrity and accountability within our ranks. Any behavior that undermines public trust or violates the law will be swiftly and decisively addressed. It is important to emphasize that the actions of one individual do not reflect the values or professionalism of an entire department. The Bethlehem Police Department remains dedicated to upholding our mission of serving and protecting the community with honor and integrity. We understand the concerns this incident may raise among parents, students, and the community at large. Please know that we are taking appropriate steps to ensure the safety and well-being of all individuals involved. As this is an ongoing investigation, we are unable to provide further details at this time. We ask for patience and cooperation from the community as we work diligently to fully investigate this matter. The Bethlehem Police Department extends our sincere apologies to anyone affected by this incident. We remain committed to transparency and accountability as we navigate through this difficult process. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge and give thanks and praise to our amazing officers, our Criminal Investigations Division, that conducted this very, very important investigation. Thank you. And now with some comments, District Attorney Stephen Baratta.
Thank you, Chief. I also want to congratulate the Bethlehem Police Department with a very intensive and impressive investigation in a short period of time. It's with heavy heart that we're here. And of course, many of you are aware that this is the second incident involving a school resource officer in the last 2 weeks that the Northampton County District Attorney's Office is dealing with. And frankly, these two events are part of a troubling nationwide epidemic, it seems, with regard to teachers, coaches, and in this case, school resource officers who groom children to engage in sexual relations. And for that reason, I think it's important that we make a couple of observations about these cases. First of all, these arrests and the relationships that caused the arrest didn't happen in a vacuum. Our investigations revealed that there existed a significant period of inappropriate communication and action that laid the groundwork to help secure the alleged suspect's goal of having relationships with these young children. We also learned that on busy school days and at school events, these SROs managed to isolate their victims in secret rendezvous within the school in order to advance their objectives. These in-school actions and communication went undiscovered by the school officials. We also learned that there may have been other children who were contacted by these offenders. So there's continuing investigations going on. And from our standpoint, even more concerning is that these schools may have had complaints about prior activities and concerns that were not presented for investigation and no appropriate preventive action was taken. I also want to note that anyone who asserts that these children share blame or are not victims do not understand power dynamics, personality disorders, and the physical, emotional, and intellectual development of children as they transition into adulthood. These children are truly victims in an adult game with adult behavior. Lastly, I feel compelled to make two observations as it relates to public safety issues, because that's with utmost concern for us. And I do so after having an opportunity to review the investigations, the interviews, and some of the recorded conversations that exist in these cases. I believe that our school administrators, and perhaps even law enforcement, should consider an absolute no exception policy that school resource officers are forbidden to be in an office or any other isolated areas to meet privately with a child. This has been apparently allowed to happen over and over again in these schools, and that led to the ability to begin the grooming process. And I think this is a no-brainer because police officers generally in their day-to-day affairs, when they encounter a juvenile who they suspected committed the crime, they're not allowed to interview that juvenile without an adult present, whether it's a parent, guardian, or a lawyer. So there's no reason for school resource officers to be secreted in an area with children by themselves. Also, the power dynamics there are heightened when there's no one else around to see what's going on or to provide any support for that child. Now, certainly, officers do interact with children all the time. Children want to confide with them. Officers may want to mentor them. I'm not suggesting that you can't have that kind of relationship, but children who need confidential counseling should be counseled by the people that the school district hires to provide counseling, our guidance counselors in the school. Another concern is when you see some of this communication, it might jump out at you that there might be some personality disorders with regard to the suspects. And that calls into question an issue with regard to screening and whether perhaps law enforcement and school officials should sit down and talk about how we can better screen people who we use as SROs at this point. We don't want to see this happen again. Thank you very much.
The statements from Captain Lechman and myself will be available on our social media sites. And at this time, we'll be fielding some questions.
Are you looking for additional victims in this case?
It's an active investigation, so we want people that have information to come forward. So if there are additional victims, yes, I would encourage them to come forward.
How long was this officer an SRO at this school for?
6 years, yes.
How long before the March 1st date when he was arrested, do we know how long he was engaging with the victim here, Costa Celestis?
I believe that's in the affidavit. Since January 2024.
In the affidavit, it says that victim one's mother saw an text exchange in February between Alestis and victim one. But it says May 1st is when a school, personnel is the one who contacted authorities. Do you know, was the parent maybe aware of who this person was that she was interacting with and didn't know? Do you know any of that?
I do not.
Why it wasn't reported?
No, I do not, ma'am.
Chief Kott, could you just respond to DA Baratta's comments?
Yeah.
So I am very much in support of our SRO program. We have amazing officers that do such wonderful works every day with the children in the schools that they're at. And I am in full support of the job that they do and the outreach that they do with the students.
And do you intend to take some of these steps, like he was mentioning, increase screenings? Do you think there are additional steps the department needs to take in order to make sure these SROs don't pose a threat to the students in the schools?
We did not see this coming. And I think a lot of different professions can say that when something horrible like this happens. So unfortunately, in my 19 years of law enforcement, there are dangerous people out there. There are predators out there. And they pass amongst us day in and day out. And it's our job to hopefully, God willingly, take them into custody and hold them accountable when they break the law. So screening is incredibly difficult. because somebody can pass any type of mechanism that you have in place to try to screen out people that are deviant, that are, you know, unlawful in behavior. But it's something that I believe we can look at our process to see if it needs to be refined further. But there was no indication that this was going on or that this individual had engaged in any of this behavior. He was well liked at the school. He had received awards of merit in the past. So this comes as an absolute shock and surprise. But to circle back around to the original part of your question, there are bad things that happen committed by various professions every day, and I don't believe that there is an answer out there at how to prevent this, definitively how to prevent this from occurring again. We just have to work hard as we're doing to ensure that we put the proper people in place, and when an allegation comes forward, we take decisive action that we did with our Bethlehem area school district partners and put that individual on leave and fully investigate it to our capacity.
Mr. Baratta, with your suggestions and then saying, you know, this was happening on school grounds, is it a possibility that you're looking into holding the school accountable for anything? Because this happened on the school grounds, your comments kind of indicate that you feel like they need to take some responsibility.
Well, my comments address the public safety issue. This shouldn't happen, and I believe that my office and the superintendents from the various school districts need to sit down and talk about this issue. This happened on 2 occasions this year now, and I think the school district owes it to their children to make sure that they have policies and procedures in effect that prevent, as best they can, opportunities for this kind of behavior.
And Chief or DA, you mentioned a second school resource officer. I can catch up after. I'm from 6ABC in Philly, so I don't remember that. We don't have it in our scripts. Is that something that you announced, the arrest of another SRO officer recently?
So that is not the City of Bethlehem Police Department. That would be Palmer Township.
Okay.
The Eastern Area School District, also within Northampton County.
Okay, okay.
DA Baratta, you mentioned that there was complaints from prior that may not have been investigated. Was that against this officer or other SROs?
Well,
And if you don't mind coming up to the
Yeah, do
microphone.
you mind just coming up to me?
as the chief indicated, this is an ongoing investigation, and obviously now people are sensitized to what happened, and we're beginning to receive some information, and there's a possibility that there may have been other concerning events, but it's still under investigation. So I have nothing to report about anything definitive, but we're receiving information, and we'll continue to look into all the allegations and all the information we get.
And that's about this officer.
I believe both cases. Thank you.
And DA Baratta, do you feel like the schools in these situations fulfilled their responsibilities to their students to report everything they knew about when they knew about it?
I don't have information about what the school districts knew and what the personnel within the schools themselves knew, but there are some questions that need to be answered, and the investigations are continuing. I have no reason to believe that anyone in the school district was involved in any criminal activity at all. So I'm not accusing anyone of breaking the law or violating their duties and responsibilities to the children that they educate and are responsible for protecting. But now that we've had 2 incidents like this, within a month, we need to sit down and we need to start talking about whether there's prophylactic measures we can take as far as policy and procedures that can lessen opportunities for this kind of behavior and further protect our children.
Did any of these victims make any complaints or reports to the school, or was it just this mother that kind of brought this to light?
Well, I'm going to leave that question to the Bethlehem Police Department since they've conducted the investigation.
So it was the school that brought it to our attention. It was through a school guidance counselor. So it was not the mother that made the report. It was a student that confided in a school guidance counselor. The guidance counselor took the proper steps, completed a child line, contacted the administration, and the school administration immediately reached out to me.
Chief, just to build off the question earlier about the mother viewing the texts from the officer and the victim, was the parent perhaps misled by what was involved here? Do you know why it wasn't more of a concern early on from the family's perspective?
So it's an ongoing investigation, but I do believe it's in the affidavit of probable cause that there was deceptive behavior occurring to try to mask who the text messages was from.
Just for clarification, for the second victim, which would be the 11-year-old female, the extent right now that you're saying publicly is just that there were pictures of her private area that were on his phone without her knowledge. That's all we know for that one, right?
Correct. It was an upskirt video.
And on his personal or work phone?
Personal.
Okay, thanks.
Any advice to parents as far as looking at their kids' phones? I mean, is there any advice you can give or anyone out there?
Absolutely look at your children's electronic devices. I am a mother of two, and I am constantly screening my son's iPad and anything that they touch, their Xbox and their PlayStation. Just be vigilant. Be vigilant.
I'm sorry, one last question. Post any advice for parents on how to deal with the healing? I know you can't talk from a psychologist, but yeah, what do they do after something like this?
Reach out to the resources that are in place. I know Captain Lechman read a resource that's available for people that are trying to heal, that may be triggered by an event like this. Just definitely reach out to those resources that are in place and talk to somebody. And I know that we are going to be out and about at the schools, and we are going to be out and about in the public and are going to work on rebuilding that relationship. Every contact is the opportunity to build a relationship with someone. And we want them to see the good that is the Bethlehem Police Department and not let the actions of an individual define who we are. I want to thank you all for coming. I will be available afterwards to answer any additional questions, but thank you all for coming this afternoon. Thank you.